All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the brand new year. Before we begin, I'd be remiss to not wish you all a very happy new year. I hope you had a great holiday time and spent some time, friends, family, going to see a couple of good movies perhaps, and getting some solid sleep. And I'd also like all of us to wish Blair a belated happy birthday. So happy birthday, Blair. And with that, I'd like to call the executive committee meeting to order. It's Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, and it is 9:03. Clerk, could you call the roll?
Allen. Bates. Gums. Juby.
Here.
Caius.
Caius present.
Lewis.
Lewis here.
Linder.
Linder here.
Molina.
Molina present.
Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
Strathman.
Strathman present.
Sturgis.
Sturgis present.
Pepe. Williams.
Williams here.
Roth.
Roth here.
Bragg.
Here. And did we hear Mr. Tepe say yes? I know
Yeah.
I can see him.
I heard him.
It is on.
Got a phone that's ringing somewhere. All right, is anybody requesting remote attendance today?
Sanchez, Madam Chair.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Sanchez. And is Ms. Molina, I heard you're interested in remote attendance as well?
Yes, I submitted my request this morning, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do I have your permission to allow them both in to participate? Yes, you have consensus. All right, very good. Carol, why don't you do the pledge for us today? All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The desk or something there? What's this?
I have a motion to second to approve the minutes of December 4th, 2024.
Linder moves. Yes, consent.
Thank you, sir. Everybody unanimous consent with the minutes? I see full consent. All right, very good. Thank you. We have some public comment. I'm aware of 2 speakers today. Each one of our speakers will be allowed 3 minutes, and I think I know these 2 speakers not to disrupt the intent of this board and to speak with great courtesy to us and to each other. So the first speaker will be Mr. Avalar.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Executive Committee and members of the County Board. Mark Avalar, I'm out of Algonquin, Illinois. I live in the 23rd District. My topics this morning is twofold, and I want to make sure that literally everyone, and including the community, are all on the same page based on an article that was published in Monday's print edition of the Daily Herald. It was a reprint of the article from the Shaw Media's Northwest Herald about an analytical error concerning the sales tax referendum that was approved in McHenry County last year for mental health. It's under the same statute, although the purpose here is public safety in Kane County. There was confusion over our auto sales included. Are auto sales included? And I was at a recent community meeting where there was a difference of opinion in the room. So since the county can give informational, that probably would be one of the first questions to put on frequently asked questions, has to do with, are auto sales included? based on what was written in the Herald, based on what McHenry County and their analytics missed or assumed, is that it is definitely not. And I was chatting with Ms. Hopkinson. I know she's on top of this with the state concerning what is and what is not included, and certainly any clarification that your finance department will have and help the county give out its informational components. By all means, take advantage of that, do so early. Like I said, in a room full of people and people had differences of opinion. And whether it's proponents or opponents alike, we want the truth to get out there about what is covered under this new sales tax if the voters approve it on April 1st. So I wanted to share that with you. I wanted, if you all may have not have seen the article on Monday, by all means, it's there. And certainly McHenry County made an honest mistake. Learn from other people's mistakes and ensure that Kane County doesn't, and making sure it's all in your hands. So I wanted to do that. I see I have a little time left. One thing I also want going to address is late last month, there was an issue with a member of Congress who is retiring. Her name is Kate Granger. I grew up in Texas in the Dallas area. She had just been elected mayor right before I moved away in '91, but she had gone missing for several months. She had not cast a vote since late July. And finally, a newspaper discovered, well, she was in assisted living. Her staff did not disclose this in advance, let alone to the constituents. And I recognize there's a big difference between an elected county board member and a member of Congress, especially they have staff. But certainly I've heard some county board members are under the weather. And if it's going to be an extended, whatever communications, maybe through Kane County Connects, that can be shared appropriately, I encourage you to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Avalar. And as we are aware about not being able to tax any licensed vehicles. So that is very clear to all of us, but thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. It is appreciated. The next speaker is Brian Anderson.
Good morning, Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove, Illinois. Here's why I'm here. We've talked about it at these public comments for almost 2 years. We don't need to relive it. New year, you're all committee chairs. I think the main thing is the main thing. Balance the budget, be fiscally conservative. And I'm hoping each one of you between the holiday break and today have actually done something many executives do. They put together goals and objectives that you're working toward. And I hope if you have, you haven't missed measurable goals. You can't manage what you can't measure. It's easy to put goals together, but if you're not specific, that's where we lose track. Now, Mark just alluded to the specialty retail occupancy tax that's going to be on the ballot. We've got the new property taxes going up. Let me just remind us that we're not out of the woods, and that's why fiscally being responsible on every single line item, you need to have the mindset that you don't have the money, right? So nation's highest real estate taxes, a new data point, Elgin now and Aurora are on that list. This is from the governor's office, dated November 1st. I just pulled up their inflationary in caution. Prices that have risen over the last few years are not expected to decline. Illinois faces a $3 billion shortfall by 2026, a new report shows. Chicago faces $382 million budget shortfall. Well, we all know that Kane County with the other counties in the collar counties, excuse me, are walking lockstep with Brandon Johnson. Illinois' unemployment rate remains one of the nation's worst. So we're not out of the woods. There's much work to be done. The constituents have put you in these seats, and my expectation as a taxpayer is you do something that maybe some of you have not done before. Dig in, research, make hard decisions, because if things don't go the way that you anticipate on April 1st, then you're going to have to do something like roll your sleeves up and figure out how to be fiscally responsible. The COVID money is gone. We don't need to relive that, but it's time to get focused, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
All right, with that, I think it's an excellent transition to go into our monthly financials. Ms. Hopkinson.
Hello. Hello. The report is on file. I'll go over,
Kathy, could you get a little bit closer to your
yeah,
microphone?
the
for
mic
us?
seems to be, there we go. I'll go over the results of the departments that are a part of the county board office, because that is the executive committee. And then I have a short presentation on purchasing today. So the county board oversees the county board office, farmland preservation, and Grand Victoria Casino. If you take a look at your reports, it has all of the historical information and the 2023 and 2024 budget information. We haven't, the report that you have today does not include some of the last expenses of the year. So there'll be one more update for 2024 actual, but I will give you a few highlights. Liquor license revenue was up a little bit. There's two types of liquor licenses. We hope to start incorporating performance measures into these reports in the future for two reasons. One, it's part of the budget book. Every department and office has to prepare performance indicators / outcomes as part of the budget process. And also, we're going to be going through a strategic planning process this year, and that is going to be one of the results as well. So, but liquor license revenue was up over $30,000 compared to last year. Grand Victoria Casino, the riverboat proceeds were up slightly, 5.1 million in 24, 4.9 million in 23. And then one other thing that I wanted to highlight in the 20 for farmland preservation, because it's a big number, in the 23 budget and in the 24 budget, and also now in the 25 budget, there was over $2.5 million budgeted for a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant. And that was put in the 23 budget and the 24 budget, and it didn't come in. And it's back in the 2025 budget. So I think it's something that can be looked at as to, you know, for budgeting for a big grant like that, how can we help get that grant revenue? So those are the highlights of the departments that fall up under the county board. And I think I'll switch now to the procurement presentation. It's a PowerPoint presentation. I was asked to give a short presentation on the topic of purchasing, just generally. So I'm just going to cover a few things. Oh, and while we're waiting for that slide deck to come up, we also, as you know, our previous purchasing director, Karen Keatsman, left us last week. She went off to another local government agency. We miss her. And our new director of purchasing is Tim Kiovancik. He started yesterday. He has been with the county for 25 years. He has tremendous experience, and he's super busy already working with some elected offices on some big bids. So the purchasing process here at the county. So how does it work? Department identifies their purchasing need that they, with board approved appropriation and budget. They work with our purchasing department to obtain quotes, issue RFQs, RFPs, or formal bids. Just briefly, an RFQ is a request for qualifications. Typically there's, you're not looking for a price. An RFP is a request for proposal. And then a formal bid is where you would be looking for like the lowest quote. Our purchasing ordinance, which is in compliance with the federal code of regulations, about maybe 8 years ago, we updated our whole procurement ordinance to ensure that the terminology that we were using matches the federal code so that when we get grant money and we spend grant money, we're in compliance with those federal grant requirements. So this terminology, micro purchase, small purchase, simplified acquisition threshold is right out of the federal code of regulations. So we break down our purchases into 3 categories: micro, which is under 10, small, which is between 10 and 30, and simplified acquisition threshold, which is over 30. Under 10, our requirements are that you obtain quotes. You don't have to go out to do a formal bid, but that you do your homework, you obtain quotes, but you're not necessarily required to select the low bid. That is per our purchasing ordinance. A small purchase is between 10 and 30. It also requires getting quotes. It requires that you get 3 quotes where you can. The ordinance, again, does not specify that you have to choose the lowest quote. And then over 30, which is typically what the board is seeing, is competitive bids are required except for RFPs, professional services selections, emergency purchases, and cooperative joint purchasing. The county uses a website called BidNet, and all of the bids over 30 and the RFPs, et cetera, are posted on that site. Vendors can access our documents up there and then submit responses. Our purchasing department facilitates the development of the scope of work, terms and conditions, the advertisement for RFPs and bids, vendor responses, contract documents. Purchasing does this for everybody. There is a sort of a call out for KDOT, and it's in our procurement ordinance. KDOT, for their professional engineering services and their construction, they do it in-house. They do put their bids up on BidNet, but they are typically running their own purchasing process for their engineering and construction. Approval of purchases. County departments, purchases over 30 must be approved by the county board. Elected officials, and this is a recent update, literally within the last month or two, that we've gotten clarification on this. Elected officials, there is no statute or ordinance that requires elected officials with internal control to obtain county board approval for items over 30. It is the tradition that they do come here and seek approval, but there is nothing in our ordinance or statute that requires them to do so.
We have a question? Yes.
I'm
Ms.
sorry, I
Bates.
don't understand why, microphone. I thought I was doing it. I don't understand why it says, competitive bidding required except for RFPs. I thought that was,
So so there's a bid, which is where you're looking for the low price. You're looking for a low price from the responsive bidder, somebody that's going to meet all of your required specifications. Typically for bids are done for like construction or a product. RFPs are more for consulting services. And you're not necessarily searching out for the low price. You're looking for the quality of the professional
I always
service.
thought that was an RFQ. That's not an RFQ.
An RFQ is typically done when you might want to, there's a variety of reasons. Sometimes you do an RFQ because you don't know who's out there and you need help writing a better RFP. So you want to see what are the qualifications of a variety of firms out there, and then you can write a better RFP. Sometimes you do an RFQ if you want to pre-qualify several vendors and hire several vendors to be available on call to provide the same service. And so with an RFQ, you can get quals and perhaps prices per hour, or however you phrase it. But there's different reasons why you would do an RFQ versus an RFP. There's also RFIs, requests for information, but we don't do too many of those here. Okay. So what's new beginning January 1st? The state statute was amended. And if you take a look on the screen, the item that is underlined is what was added. So the statute now says any purchase by a county with fewer than 2 million inhabitants or an elected official in a county with fewer than 2 million inhabitants, including an elected official with control of the internal operations of the office. Essentially must now do competitive bidding for items over 30, except for professional services. Okay, so we expect in the purchasing department, we'll see if there's going to be, because most of the elected officials were going out for bid anyway. We'll see if there's a material change or a significant change in the volume of activity in the purchasing department.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
A question, going back to the first page, where you say it is not, it is the practice of our elected officials who have internal control to obtain county board approval, but that is not mandatory. And in this case, they are just responsible for going out above 30,000 to obtain competitive bid.
Right, the competitive bidding is still required. As I said, I am traditionally, I think it has been the practice that elected officials do come to the county board for purchases over 30. But there was a recent question and we got some clarification, and the clarification was as stated up there.
Is that something that this board should consider to have it part of its county code? Or would that not be appropriate?
That would be up to up to the county, or maybe the state's attorney's office can weigh in. That would be up to the board.
Please.
I mean, I know there's a statute involved as well.
As Director Hopkinson just pointed out, that there is no requirement that elected officials with internal control get county board approval for those types of purchases. And so it may be that to amend the ordinance to require that would be considered a violation of those internal control statutes, which, as you know, allows the county board to appropriate funds, but in terms of deciding where they go and how they're spent in those circumstances does not apply.
Okay, so that may be something that Ms. Molina may want to consider, since many of those opportunities come through her committee.
So it can certainly be requested to discuss those things. I don't know that it can be required.
Oh, I know, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Surges. Kathy, if I can,
Absolutely.
are so often we jump into these presentations without, and I appreciate the background, but is there a problem that we have that we're trying to solve? Specific, or is this a generalization just to bring us up to speed, to give us an overview? What's going on with this, that on the very first meeting of the first day of, here we go, we're going to clobber you with this, and unless something's broke and we have to fix it, which is a different flavor.
Well, I think it was just, it was requested that I do this presentation. There's been a couple of questions on some purchasing issues over the last, several months. The RBO has now been in place for about a year. There's a couple issues with that. So I think just kind of a general overview.
Okay.
And maybe there's one or two things that I'll talk about in a second here that need to be tightened up.
As a general rule for this, if Kathy is the finance director and she's introducing this to this committee, who would take action on it? This committee or finance committee? I'm just trying to understand.
It would come, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but because this is your charge of your committee, that this would come through your committee. Any of the requests for funding opportunities to pay for commodities or services would come through your committee. That's why I mentioned Ms. Molina, since much of her committee is done with approving the resolutions for funding for the sheriff, for the state's attorney. If that is not needed, and we're just making sure that they're on their budget, that may simplify her meeting to talk more about context rather than purchases.
Okay, so an overview because the committee chairs are here.
It's accurate.
Understood. Thank you.
Madam-
Okay, we've got two. Ms. Bates, hold on a
Well,
second. Mr.
just-
Tepe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tuppy here. What would change in certain instances? And the thought that comes to mind is the sheriff's department, we've had challenges because of COVID and getting police cars. Are they going to have to go and now get 3 bids for every police car?
The sheriff's office has historically gone out and done bidding. So, I mean, a lot of the elected officials, as I said, this law was changed, but I would say most of the elected officials in this county have traditionally gone out and done the bidding anyway. But I think this new amendment to the state statute is just solidifying it.
Thank you.
Okay,
So-
Ms. Bates?
I just wanted to speak to Mr. Sturgis. There was a change that goes into effect today. So I think that's
an
part of the
update to
reason
that.
for this.
Okay. Yeah,
Presentation.
it seems much more than,
He screwed up.
no, no,
The change.
that was not the implication. Stop
Change.
that. Thanks.
Maybe I'm just a little slower on this one. The state is requiring this via this statute.
Yeah,
correct?
the history of this has to do with some activity that has gone on at DuPage County, and they brought forth suggested changes to the state statute. And so the state statute was amended with an effective date of January
Right, and
1st.
so and then we're also discussing changing the code. Why would we change the code if the state is requiring it? Wouldn't that be just?
No, I think that
simplification, or-
the question on changing the code was in reference to the fact that currently there is nothing in the state statute nor in our county procurement ordinance that requires elected officials to obtain county board approval
Oh,
once they do the bidding.
okay.
Right.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
Missed that
And
middle sentence there.
And they don't need to do that going further with this clarity, that they do not, as long as they're within their budget, they're,
Yeah.
they have internal control to manage their own resources.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 more slides. Determination of vendor responsibility. So what does it take to be a vendor here at Kane County? Our own procurement ordinance lists a series of factors that have to be considered to determine if a bidder or an offer is responsible. These are the most significant ones, that they have to have financial, physical establishment. They have to have available personnel. They're also judged on their past performance and the integrity of their performance. They have to be legally qualified to do business with the county. As I'm sure you're all familiar, there's lots of forms and paperwork that all of our vendors have to fill out, including the ownership of the business to ensure that there's no conflicts of interest. They have to comply with the submission requirements. They have to meet specific responsibility criteria. So there's also a host of things that a vendor has to be able to essentially meet in order to be considered a vendor that can do business with the county. Then there's the responsible bidders ordinance, which is just for public works projects. So public works projects are essentially, your large construction projects. And there's 2 departments that are primarily impacted by this RBO, and that's transportation and buildings management, because they're doing most of the public works projects. This RBO was adopted by the county board last August of 23. It's been a year of implementation and getting a lot of our vendors, some of the same vendors who've always done business with the county, up to speed on submitting additional documentation and meeting additional requirements. The one hurdle, which has been talked a lot internally here, and a lot of you may be familiar with from being on other committees, there's one particular hurdle in paragraph J. There's 2 parts. There's a part A and a part B in paragraph J of the RBO. And part A states that for public works projects, the vendor and their subcontractors have to participate in training programs / apprenticeship programs and be able to document that. by submitting actual documentation. And then part B of paragraph J is that they have to submit documentation that those programs, those apprenticeship programs that they participate in, that they're graduating at least 5 people in each of the last 5 years. And I don't think, and I, don't think I'm speaking, that maybe there's one that I'm missing, but I don't know that there is any vendor that submitted a bid since we've had the RBO in place that has met Part B of paragraph J, which is being able to graduate at least 5 in each of the last 5 years. And so we've had discussions internally that perhaps that is a documentation requirement that perhaps we don't, we may need to amend in our RBO because literally nobody can meet that requirement.
Ms. Hopkinson, are
that-
we mimicking state law on that?
Um,
And is that, and so would this be a departure from that?
I don't
I
think,
voted no on this, so I mean, I was just,
I don't know about that part of it. I don't know about that part of it.
okay.
I don't know about that part of it.
And my question is, did we adopt this because we needed to be, it was a housekeeping item, we needed to comply? Or can we just change this?
I will turn this over to Mr. Kios as well, because he was pretty intimately involved with this development of the RBO. And it is something that has been talked about and has been adapted by many other counties, including in Illinois, by the state. So, Mr.
Certainly,
Kios.
Yeah, we adopted it about a year ago, and we also, at the time, adopted that if they didn't qualify for the RBO, then it would, there's an out clause at the end, which allows us to not directly apply it. We can go and not use it. But we tailored it from a couple of different aspects, including what other counties and other villages have done. Ours may be more strict. And that was the idea, was that we would we would pass this and then work on it with the understanding that it could be changed. Certainly, it's a ordinance, so it can be changed just the same.
Tweak.
Yeah, it could be tweaked. And we knew we were going to be tweaking it a bit, so we're looking into that. And unfortunately, I'd like to have seen it go faster, our changes, but as you know, county or government things are slow, so.
Thank you.
We plan on working on that in the next year or so.
The apprenticeship program, the one that was in question, for some of our vendors, I'd say more for building management. I believe in my diligence in checking at the vendors have been in complete compliance with this. The electricians, we can use that as an example. I'm not quite sure about some of the other bids that have gone out with transportation. But I do believe that that is indeed also the case, knowing the apprenticeship training programs that our unions do have. They're very robust, they're very thorough, and they're very large. So there may be a confusion with the paperwork rather than indeed compliance. So how to document the paperwork for this. So that'll be something that we have talked about. Kathy and I, as you mentioned internally, have talked about. Other counties don't seem to have an issue with this as far as being able to submit the appropriate paperwork by the vendor. Seems to be able to go more smoothly. With us, there seems to be some challenge. So we can address that, the processing as well. But the apprenticeship program is something that I would believe we would all support, because we all know that both our schools from the high school level, even now going into the junior high school level, and our colleges, both 4- and 2-year colleges, are a large support of pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs, knowing the fact that we have a great need for trained labor for current and for the future. So this is something that I don't want to dismiss, but as Mr. Kios has also brought out, if this is an anomaly and the work that needs to be done does not necessarily have to require apprenticeship programs, or if an apprenticeship program does not exist for that particular contract, there is an opportunity for that company to be hired to supply the work that needs to be done. And that was completely under the understanding of the process that we took place. But we'll take a look at it during the transition time between having the election cycle, between having some changes on staffing, between also having new committee chairs. Now that everyone is settled in, we will bring the team back together to take a look at it. And if it does need, the language needs to be adjusted, that will be adjusted. Mr. Linder? And Mr. Greip, I see you, but we're going to just allow everybody here who's on a committee chair to speak first. Yes, Mr. Linder.
Yeah, Linda here. I would think the hardest part of this is the number of apprentices that they need to graduate each year. Some of our local contractors who are, kind of like middle size, might only have 20 electricians on staff. And I think that they will graduate with 5 apprentices each of 5 years. Might be just more than what more apprentices that they could use. So I think maybe that might be the piece we tweak, is maybe that 5 in each of the 5 years. That's a pretty hard one for a small, medium-sized contractor to meet.
It really knocks out the small guys.
And
yeah.
just for clarification, I would totally agree with you on that, Mr. Linder, but that is not the interpretation. It's the apprenticeship school, the program.
Right, but still, I mean, if the guy's got 20 employees and 16 of them are, maybe they went through apprentice, they went through training. In each of 5 years, he's going to train 5 more in a small company. And so maybe we need to look at some sort of ratio of number of employees to number of graduates or something like that.
It's not the company, it's the school. So it's the apprenticeship school that would have to graduate 5 apprenticeships.
Okay.
It's
And
not the company.
Madam Chair, I believe there are some like father-son businesses that actually do qualify because they belong to organizations that have a program that do graduate that.
I understand. I read this to be that the
Yeah,
employer
that-
had
I think
to-
that's a common
had to graduate
misconception. It
5.
doesn't
That's
really not necessarily knock
that makes
the
more sense.
small
Thank you.
contractor out of business
Yeah.
or out of the competition.
And
But I'm not sure, I would raise I'm not sure we want to, how much detail we want to go into this at this point. I mean, we want to be working on it in the future.
we are going to be
and
working on it.
Certainly, input is definitely welcome as we go along.
If
but-
we could clarify that though, so I was reading or hearing what you were saying was that each contractor had to graduate. What you're saying is this is for the schools to be sanctioned or accredited. They need to turn up. Mike, I was
we
with
need
you
to belong to a
100%.
program, Yeah, and
I apologize for my questioning. I was
This
with
makes
Mr. Linder on
sense.
this as well.
exceptions.
Yep.
John, I recognize you. This is our last question to this. Mr. Gripe?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And I really appreciate this, Ms. Hopkins, and the information you provided and all that. And it appeared to me as though this came from the state. On page 3, it says about the ILCS, but I've heard comments that make it sound like the county had something to do this. At any rate, I think it's good intent, but my concern along what Madam Chair and Ms. Bates brought forth, that on page 2, the micro purchases, small purchases, and the other ones, there seems to be a lot of I don't know, holes in the opportunity for people to comply with this. Like in line 1, it says efforts should be made to distribute purchases equitably among qualified providers. That seems to be pretty, subjective. And then small purchases, it doesn't specifically state that the lowest quote would be selected, which is like, why would you not pick the lowest quote? And then you mentioned about RFPs being professional services, even though that's mentioned in the next. I just, back to the executive committee or whatever committee or committees should do this. I think this is a wonderful template for us to use and put over it, or, if we can amend to it, things that will make this give accountability to departments that even if elected officials can spend what they can spend, that the board still should know, not that we don't, but we still should know what's going on. I think there's a great opportunity for us to take this and be fiscally responsible as we're all trying to do and going to have to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gripe. All right.
Okay, last topic.
Oh, absolutely.
Purchasing cooperatives. And by the way, our procurement ordinance, which is quite lengthy, is available. It's on the Kane County Department of Purchasing homepage. You can click. It is a lengthy document, but I would encourage everybody to peruse it. Because most of what I'm talking about, I've lifted the language directly from our procurement ordinance. So cooperative purchasing, our ordinance. So what is cooperative purchasing? It's procurement conducted by or on behalf of more than one governmental unit. Our county procurement ordinance authorizes the use of purchasing co-ops. It requires the co-op to employ competitive selection procedures, similar to the requirements of our ordinance. So before we enter into an intergovernmental agreement with one of these co-ops, our state's attorney's office reviews that co-op to ensure that that co-op's competitive procedures live up to our standards. Co-ops offer specific contracts with vendors for specific items for a specific period of time. So if you go to a co-op page to buy a truck, they will have on their co-op website that they went out to bid, they selected this truck, and they will have entered into a contract for that truck for a year or 2 years or whatever the term of that contract is. So they're routinely continuing to go out to bid for all of these items. Just as an aside, I will say buying trucks right now, vehicles, trucks, it's easier to buy off of co-ops right now in the marketplace. Essentially since COVID, things have made it more difficult to buy vehicles. The current list of board-approved cooperatives. So the state of Illinois Department of Central Management Services has always essentially been a co-op. For years, KDOT used to buy salt, rock salt, off of the state contract. So when the state goes out for bid, and they go out for bid for a variety of items, it's on their CMS webpage. The county can use those prices. And then the county has separate IGAs with Omnia Partners, Sourcewell, TIPS, and Buy Board. And that is my presentation on purchasing. If there's any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
one question. Thank you, Ms. Hopkinson. Williams here. Like a lot of stuff that comes out of Springfield, there's a mandate to, in this case, our elected officials. And I'm curious as to if there's going to be a cost to those departments, if there's going to be a strain on our purchasing department because of these changes, and how we're going to staff either our own purchasing department or how the electeds are going to staff this up to comply with the statute.
As I said, I think for a lot of the purchases of products, items, things like trucks, cars, pretty much most of the elected offices were utilizing our purchasing department. Yes, there's some specific technologies that were perhaps purchased and researched directly by the elected office. But I would say by and large, the sheriff does a lot of buying of equipment. They've traditionally used our purchasing department, so I don't see a huge change there. We are going to be advertising for a buyer because we're short one person right now. In terms of, figuring out if we need more people. So the last year was a heck of a year for the purchasing department with all of the contracts, all of the ARPA contracts coming. We had a banner year and it was rough, but we survived with 3 people. I don't know that we're going to have another year like that. We put out a lot of bids and RFPs for all the ARPA projects that came through the board. So I'm saying I'm going to take a wait and see attitude over the next few months to see if we need a 4th person in purchasing.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Williams?
Partly, but I understand the challenges with it. It's,
Well, in terms of, maybe ask, again.
well, I mean, the state's attorney's office, they have to comply with this ordinance. Do they
Right.
have staff in place? Are they gonna need more people? Are they gonna be asking to use our purchasing department? I mean, I
Well, they-
don't expect you to have the answer to it, but these are just things I think the committee ought to be aware
They
of.
they should be using well, it's my recommendation, that they use our purchasing department because we have people who have extensive experience in putting together bids and advertising and all that stuff. So it makes it easier. I would say that yes, all of the departments across the county have accounting people. There's finance officers, CFOs and other offices. There's people who do purchasing. There's people in each one of these offices that our purchasing department deals with all the time when we're buying stuff. So there are dedicated personnel, especially in the large offices like state's attorney and sheriff, that are dedicated to doing accounting, purchasing type duties. And I'm sure if those offices need additional support, they would determine that, those elected offices.
It's decentralized. And I think that's just inherent with having the internal control, or it's just been the practice of Kane County. Have we taken a look to see if other counties have a more centralized purchasing program? Or are we, our methodology, is it similar to other counties? With having the purchasing program
I have not done a
dispersed?
study on that. I
Okay,
have not done
maybe that's something we can get back to just to take a look.
But I mean, in terms of our largest dollar purchases, which is all KDOT, their staff there handles it.
Madam Chair.
Okay, yes.
Bates, recently, there were some questions about the proper use of cooperatives. Does this resolve? I can't remember exactly what those issues were, but there was some concern about when it's proper and when it's not proper. Is this to resolve those issues? It looks like cooperatives are helping us by doing a lot of RFPs for us, but.
I mean, all this is saying is that cooperatives are authorized by our ordinance.
Okay.
So I mean, that would be up to the board, that would be a policy change. But I mean, but this is just highlighting that using co-ops is authorized by the county procurement ordinance. And this is how the process works to get a co-op, to get an IGA with a co-op and then use that co-op. But the decision to use co-ops or not, that's a county board decision.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm so sorry.
Me first,
Absolutely.
Madam Chair.
Hence the apology.
I thought we were going to be done with this. but
Moving on.
Steve's opened up a
Just
can of
on the,
worms.
it's county board
Yes,
policy, but it
yes.
also is State of Illinois Central Management Services as well. The state uses this, so other government agencies.
Well, the CMS department is sort of their central purchasing department. It's been there for as long as I've been working in my career. Everybody knows about CMS, and they have pages and pages and pages of items that they buy, and governments all over the states will use their pricing and enter into contracts with vendors based on all of the competitive bid work that the state did.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Surges. And Kathy, I mean, if there's any way to streamline, this is great, as long as the reports are coming out, that we're able to see, what's staying within budget or going outside of tolerance. That's, to me, as an elected, that's the important thing. What's happening on the internal basis, if this is something that is easier and more cost beneficial, I don't know why we would hold back, and I'm not hearing anybody say, oh, wait, alarm, timeout, wait a minute. So, but without that reporting structure, and again, we can lose that in the minutia of saying, is it reporting to your committee, my committee, or is it reporting to finance, or is it reporting to exec? As long as we understand what the flow is so that we can, dial into that, why wouldn't we be doing this?
If we're talking about the cooperatives, when you're going to be passing hopefully reimbursement for a conference I went to by NACO, and part of this conversation we had was an in-depth conversation about cooperatives. And I asked Kathy for a list of our co-ops, and I've done a little bit of preliminary research in the last couple of days about the co-ops we currently have. And one of the things that I did learn from people all over the country, county execs like myself, is that co-ops are one of the most effective ways to manage the requests for items and for services. What it does do is that it cuts down the time and the staffing requirements from the procurement office, because those solicitations and RFQs for best prices have already been managed. I'm also, of course, very concerned and have been concerned about supporting our small businesses, our women, veteran, minority-owned businesses. And I have a phone call in who may have just called, Omni, who's going to be talking to me about their work with small businesses, women, veteran, minority-owned businesses. That is, again, something that if this board would like to move forward with as far as a focus, as a set-aside program to hypothetically, I'm just using a number, would have to be decided by the board, to let's say 15% of our purchases are set-aside programs, women, minority, veteran-owned businesses, that can happen and that can be complied with by Omni and certainly the state, because the state already has such a program that we can potentially mirror here. So we're going to have just an informal meeting about this so we can move forward with this and then bring recommendation to you all to see if you'd like to move forward on this, to see if we can legally do this, if our county can manage this. And if so, then what are our best practices to move that forward? But it does say that from throughout the United States, the representatives, and there were about 30 county administrators are from all different size or county execs, from small counties to very, very large counties, all say that this is best practices and that they do use this. There was another question that was asked of us. Why aren't we using Illinois businesses? One of the Which one was it? Well, one of them that we do use, there are 52 Illinois businesses on that pool. 5 of those are from Kane County. So businesses apply for it. These are mid-sized businesses. It's easier for them as a business owner to apply for this, to become part of this. So that way they have a nationwide reach as well. So, yeah.
So kind of addressing Mavis's concern, I was the one who was bringing up a lot of questions on the purchasing, because I think there's nuances in there that I think we need more definition for our nuances. And I know that I've had a lot of conversations with the state's attorney with my questions. So I don't know, Aaron, if you could kind of fill in the blanks of why these kind of come up and why I question them.
So I'll start by saying that the state authorizes the county to enter into joint purchases. Joint purchases are purchases made along with another unit of government. What we're talking about here in our ordinance is a separate thing. That is cooperatives. Although the word joint is in there, I think some of the language gets mishmashed up.
Mishmashed up?
Mishmashed up. Efficiency.
Legal.
And so the second thing I'll say is that our ordinance specifically says you're not supposed to use co-ops if you're using them to circumvent the intent of the ordinance. And the intent of the ordinance on its face appears to be to employ specific, consistent practices to determine the lowest responsive bidder for each purchase that it makes. And so I would caution that each time you start talking about the cooperatives, you make sure that those rigid procedures are still being followed. And like Director Hopkinson said, we have confirmed on each of these cooperatives that the RFP being done for the vendor is similar to the processes we have here. A distinction being that the county doesn't have the opportunity to evaluate those vendors on our own. We're relying on somebody else evaluating them. And so that is, I think, an important distinction to make. We have asked the Attorney General's office whether the cooperative purchasing is authorized under that statute allowing for joint purchasing. We haven't received a response yet, so I can't say definitively, but those are some of the concerns that we've talked about. And I think an answer to some of your questions, Board Member Sturgis.
Okay, so thank you. And this will be so we can move forward. Mr. Linder.
One last thing that I think we need to look at, not in any detail now, but when we get our report of the claims paid, the most frequent vendor out there is Amazon. And I hope that our department heads are looking at their Amazon purchases that range from a few dollars to a few $100s, and knowing that they aren't just doing it because Amazon is there, but they know that that really is the best source for what they're doing. And I know it can employ a lot of time to look at a $27 purchase, but it would be interesting sometime to figure out annually what we pay Amazon. It would be a big number.
Yeah, I'll just say this about Amazon having come from KDOT. Probably maybe just like 2 years before COVID, when Amazon department started using Amazon, it just became the easiest, fastest. And I will say this, at KDOT, they do check the prices. They'll look at eBay for a lot of the auto parts, believe it or not, because they're very specific auto parts. eBay, some of the auto shops, Amazon, and sometimes Amazon just is able to come up with the lowest price. And so it's a delivery service for that product. Yep.
That excellent question. So oftentimes this board has said that you don't have an opportunity to speak in depth about a topic that we go through and we approve resolutions. I hope you appreciated this conversation, because it's nice to have, I appreciate it, having us together to really talk a little bit in depth about an issue that a board members have brought forward, and bring it down a little bit more so that we can have a thorough understanding of this. This is going to, I hope this approach is good for all of you. It won't happen all the time, but from time to time, if an issue comes up, I think we should spend some time discussing it as a full board, or at least as the chairs of the committees, so that you can go down and discuss this with your committee as well. And then bring up any recommendations. When we have this meeting regarding our programs for the cooperatives, we will certainly bring that result of that conversation to you all for further discussion to see what we'd like to do. And I have to say that I think we all are in support of supporting Kane County businesses without question. It's something that we talk about. We always say shop local, but what does that really mean for Kane County services, and how can we help not just for Kane County, but at least for our region to support our businesses here? So that would be something that I'm interested in addressing, to see if we legally can do so appropriately through our purchasing department. So thank you so much for taking the time and listening to this. So with that, it is now time, and thank you, Kathleen, very much, for our public information officer to give us an update.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I wanted to talk a little bit about our proclamations. I think we've got them sorted out at this point. I met with Bill Roth and Anita Lewis. Thank you both very much for your time. We went through a long list of possible proclamations and recognitions. I handed out today a draft of what they came up with. We agreed to start at least going in that direction. It can be added to by any board member that sees that they would like something a proclamation put forward, a recognition of a business, a recognition of a person, depending on what it is. I've also got a resolution, a draft resolution at the state's attorney's office outlining the purpose and procedures associated with proclamations. So that should give us some guidelines when that's completed. We do have a proclamation that's coming forward today to the executive committee directly because we didn't have time in December to get it to a committee. Poverty in America Awareness Month. The Northern Illinois Food Bank will be here on the county board to accept a proclamation. It has details about how poverty impacts King County when you want to make these proclamations as relevant to King County as possible. So we're well on our way for that. You can see each of the proclamations, the month that they're going to come up, and the committee that they're going to go to. So for instance, this month you'll see Black History Month coming to the Public Service Committee and National Cancer Prevention Month coming to the Health Committee. Just so you know, that's how we're kind of going to go with that. As you see, also, there will be a recognition of King County's birthday, which is January 16th. We're 189 years old. I'm trying to do some rewrites of history, not rewriting, but kind of rephrasing, adding to the judiciary asked me for their bar briefs to write up something about courts and jails. Very interesting, very interesting. So there will be an article in King County Connects about the history of how we got from the Harrington Tavern all the way over to the Judicial Center and how many escapes we had over at 3rd Street. It was fun to research. It really was. Also, please, in 2025, I implore you to give me content for King County Connects. Things that are going on in your committees, things that you think are interesting, please reach out to me directly. I think there's so much great things that we're doing in King County. I just need to know so that I can get those out to the public in the ways that we're doing. And finally, we are going to say goodbye to Christian Smith from the Beacon News. He's out in the audience right now. I know, solid journalist, strong writer, asked good questions, learned a lot in a short amount of time, genuinely cared about what he was reporting on, whether it was big or small, and really put King County in the forefront on a lot of different subjects that I think he would be proud of. So I wanted to thank him personally for all the outreach that he did and the good work that he did. And I'd like you to I'd like to introduce Molly Morrow. She is the one that's going to be taking it over for Christian. I'd like her to take the mic just for a second and introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself. Okay.
Hi, Christian warned me when I came in, but I didn't have any.
Molly, microphone.
Do it.
Close? That better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly. This is my first week at the Beacon News.
Right up to it.
Right in there.
Right in like that. Okay, it just feels really close.
We want to hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Molly. This is my first week at the Beacon News. I'm taking over Christian's job as he moves on to a new role at the Beacon News. So yes, I'm going to be covering King County and various other things that come up. I interned at the Chicago Tribune over the summer, and then now I'm joining in this capacity, covering the suburbs. I'm excited to learn more. So I'm excited to talk to all of you.
Welcome, Molly.
Great. Thank you, Molly. We'll
And
look
thanks
forward
to
working-
Christian, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for Christian. Yeah.
Handled some tough times.
Oh, interesting times, interesting times. Yes, ma'am.
So how would I ask for a proclamation for Earth Day and Earth Month?
Yeah, just send it to me. But the sooner the better again, because we just need to get it a month ahead of time so I can get it onto a committee. So what is
June?
April.
April? Okay, so we need to get it into the March flow. So coming up. I'll just make a note of it.
Ms. Chuby?
So that actually kind of touches a question that I had, because February is Black History Month and it's everything is, so we are addressing it the month before so that at the start of the month, it kicks off, correct? So
Well, so the way it's going to work, at least for now, until we can get a clarification from the state's attorney's office and make sure that the procedure is correctly. What now I've done is put it on the Public Service Committee. It will go there, it will go to exec, and then it will be approved at the county board in February, which is the actual month.
okay, but doesn't the county board meeting come like late in the month? I mean, wouldn't it be better for us to recognize these things in the month prior so that the month coming up then we have the whole month? I mean, instead of like having 2 days left or 3 days left of the month?
In the middle.
That's completely up to you guys. I just, what I was thinking is the usually the board meetings with the second week and
Second Tuesday.
yeah, the second Tuesday of the month. So, and that actually is the month that it's happening, but I'm happy to rearrange and
Okay.
do whatever you would like to do.
No, I
So
was
that's
just-
cool. No, it's a good
Just
question. I
wanted
just-
to,
yeah.
recognize with enough time to actually explore if something's like the first week of February and we're talking about it the second week of February, then it's kind of moot. So that's all.
Perhaps let's wait until the resolution comes up and then we can discuss that and modify it if we need to. All right, anything else? Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, is there any old business that needs to be discussed? for a Brand new year? Okay. Is there any new business? None. Okay, so let's go on to our preliminary accountability agenda. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet is some proposed changes to the text of the county code addressing development department. My understanding, this is just cleanup work and not really any substantive, just reflects reality versus the past. So that's all I have to report.
Could you highlight where the changes are?
It should be on your screen there. That page. I lost my agenda. I know I lost my PDF.
We have Mark in the audience. Maybe Mark wants to come up and just highlight some
Yeah,
of
I'm
this.
sorry, I lost my agenda from my computer. I have to reload it. So
Like-
if Mark's here, that would be great.
Mark's here. And Jody's here.
Hi, Jody Walnick, Director of Environmental and Water Resources. One of the major changes to the description was for our department. When the Energy and Environment Committee was created, the tasks under that committee were originally in this description. They were not modified, however, so this includes all of the original description of what the E&E committee was going to do. So many of the changes here that you're seeing specifically for my department are to remove those items that fall under the E&E committee and no longer fall under Development Committee.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff. I'll just add that some of the changes reflect that about 15 years ago, a lot of the activities of the three different departments now, Environmental Water Resources, County Development Department, and the Office of Community Reinvestment, were all under the Development Department. And that has changed over time, and the committee definition had never been updated to reflect the three different departments and different directors and responsibilities. So we've been working on this for some time, and it just does, as Mr. Williams stated, it reflects today's reality versus yesterday's organizational structure. So I don't know if Scott Berger is online, if he has anything to add regarding the changes for his department.
Scott, are you online? He's coming. I don't see him online. This was changed 7 years ago, 8 years ago? How many years?
It depends on which change. It happened over time, over about the last 15 years incrementally.
Okay.
So each increment was probably not enough to say, oh, let's revise the county code on the committee. But particularly Director Welnick had brought it to our attention that, it had become really outdated. So now it's time to play catch up.
Okay, so is this a question for Aaron? Is this considered the first reading, or will the first reading then come at the board?
I would have to get back to you in a couple of seconds on that to look how the section of 248 is laid out. It may need to be read again, but there's the way the chapters are organized. If you can give me 2 minutes, I'll check.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions on this? Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams. And then you'll just get back to us with that answer so we can keep
I'll
it
raise my
moving
hand.
forward. And is that, we need a motion and a second then to approve?
Dice would move.
Second, please.
Strathman,
Thank you, Ms. Strathman. Okay, and then roll call.
Bates, or I'm sorry, Allen.
Allen, aye.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Hold on
I
a
make
second.
a suggestion? How about instead we do a motion to table and then we can do a motion to remove from the table once I've got the answer. And then the main motion can be to either postpone it till the next meeting or to approve it.
Okay, sounds good. So
I would move to table until we have more information from the state's attorney.
okay.
I would second that.
Okay, so we'll table that until let's do it at the end of
That's it.
transportation. That'll give you plenty of time to get the answer. Okay, from your team on Third Street. It's probably researching it now. So executive, Mr. Roth.
Proclamation recognizing January 25th or 2025 as National Poverty Awareness Month in Kane County. It is on page 35. Do you want me to read it or can?
No, it's
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
Is there a second or a motion?
Williams moves for approval.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second.
Okay. All right. If there's no discussion, Ms. Bates?
Does this come with any actions? This proclamation is very
Who brought
nice.
this
but-
proclamation forward?
Our committee did.
All right.
No, there's no actions. We'll read it. And Northern Illinois Food Bank is one that's going to accept it on behalf of all the area. Well, the whole area and our poverty situation. Keep it in front of us.
All right, because it says it's important to consider public policies and strategies that can reduce and eliminate poverty while promoting economic stability and opportunity for all citizens in Kane County. So I think that's a charge for you to figure all of that out. And plus world peace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No problem, right?
Okay, very good. So thank you. Good question.
No
Good
big
question.
deal.
Anything else about this? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll.
Allen.
Miss Allen?
Yes.
Allen.
Vote.
Yes,
We're voting.
Allen, aye.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Jess. Bliss.
Bush, yes.
Linder.
Yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
All right. Mr. Berman is not here today, so we are asking Mr. Leonard to step in for him as Vice Chair of Finance. So thank you, sir, for being here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 12 items to present for discussion and possibly to move forward. The first resolution is approving the November 2024 claims paid in the amount of $9,661,834.29. Need a motion and a second?
Sanchez
Juby
moves.
moves.
Are we doing?
I'll second.
Yes. Are you going to call everyone separate?
Yeah, I'm going to do everyone. So,
Okay.
I mean, and I think we probably need to go over, it won't take long.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion, and a second. Clerk, call the roll. Not a second.
Sanchez and Juby.
Allen.
Allen, aye.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Juby.
Juby, aye.
Caius.
Yes, yes.
Lewis.
Bush, yes.
Linder.
Yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Yes.
And passes.
The second resolution is the emergency appropriation for transfer of funds from the FEMA PA Fund number 358 to the general fund, general account number 001. Need a motion and a second?
Linder moves.
Linder moved, Ludus second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Lewis.
Lewis.
And then I'm sorry, who motioned and seconded the first one?
It was Sanchez and Juby.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this?
Alan,
Seeing none, we'll do roll call.
Alan,
Aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Judy, I.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
It's approved. The next resolution is the emergency appropriation and budget adjustment for the coroner Department of Justice Morgue Tech Grant in the amount of $101,450. Need a motion, a second.
Caius move.
Seconds.
Caius and Lindner, I think. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Alan,
Alan, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Judy, I.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth.
Passes.
Resolution passes. The next resolution is authorizing a new account code and reclassification of budgeted amounts for the coroner's health opioid grant. I need a motion, a second to make these changes.
Linder will move.
Seconds.
Any discussion? See none, roll call, please.
Alan,
Alan, aye. Yes.
Juby,
Judy, I.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. Next resolution is reappropriating funds and amending resolution number 23-76, approving a contract for construction with Curran Contracting Company of Crystal Lake, Illinois for the Dauberman Road Extension, Kane County, section number 15-00277-01 in the amount of $15,571,763.84.
Bates moves.
Judy, seconds.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
I do. Where is this money going to be reallocated to what project?
6 different projects in KDOT, yes.
Okay, very good. Good job. Okay.
Anything else? Call, please.
Alan,
Alan, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Judy, I.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. Our next resolution is authorizing execution of a collective bargaining agreement between the County of Kane, Kane County Sheriff, and the Policeman's Benevolent Labor Committee, Kane County Sheriff's Office Maintenance and Janitorial Unit in the amount of $25,326.
Caius move.
Linder, second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alan,
Alan, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Judy, I.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. Moving on to the next one. Resolution accepting the use of trust donation made to the Animal Control Center in the amount of $10,000 from the Sylvia R. Snyder Estate.
Strathman will move.
Alan seconds.
It's lovely. How lovely to get
Yeah, so nice.
$10,000. Very generous.
Any other discussion?
It is, if I may, sir.
Sure.
Ms. Strathman, is there going to be a formal recognition of this contribution, a letter written to them?
That's a great question. I will find that out.
Yes,
I know
please.
that the proceeds are going to be used to putting a dog fountain outside by the walk paths by the
Okay.
Animal Control Center. So it's a very nice gift. But yeah, I'll see what we're planning on.
Okay,
Recognition.
we should recognize the gift publicly.
Thank you.
There is a typo in here that says, can be sued, when it means can be used. Typos just don't.
It's in the first paragraph there, the third sentence. So could we make an amendment to that Scribner's error?
Those dogs that are going-
Sometimes they just
This-
don't.
it's
match.
a Scribner's error.
So,
The last sentence
Discussion on this?
on page 1.
Hearing none. Could we have roll call, please?
Ellen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Lewis,
Louis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe,
Seppi, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. Moving on to the next resolution. We'd like to authorize a contract extension with the aerial ortho imagery in the amount of $94,800.
Bates moves.
I second.
Any discussion?
Cool.
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Lewis,
Louis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Seppi, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. Moving on to the next one, authorizing an opioid response grant for community implementation in the amount of $50,000.
Louis moves. Strathman seconds.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Seppi, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
And Mr. Leonard, I've been asked by our state's attorney that I just step aside for JK and L.
Yes.
So I'll turn this over to Mr. Roth, but you'll introduce it. My mic is just going to be off.
Okay. The next resolution is approving county board personal expense voucher in the amount of $43.46.
Guys, move.
Seppi
Alan.
seconds.
Caius moved and Alan seconded.
Seppi.
Debbie.
Tempe, sorry about that. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Allen,
Alan, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Lewis,
Louis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes. And I think the appropriate motion would be these three resolutions should be moved off consent because we do have to vote on them individually at the board meeting.
It's a good call. So we will move these forward, but not onto the consent agenda individually.
Moved it, so.
Okay, need a second on that?
I'll second.
Williams seconds. Roll call on that?
Wait, what happened?
I'm sorry, who was,
It was Caius and Williams seconded.
And
And
this
this
is
is
to move it
to
off
move these forward off the consent agenda.
Well, I already moved the first one, right?
Did you want to move all three?
I can move all three and then and instead of moving them to consent, move them to,
Let's
I
move-
agree to that as a
Okay.
mover.
Let's
That's,
move
I
all
understood
three.
the motion to be all three were coming off consent.
Yes.
So I seconded that.
Okay,
Point of
great.
order, please.
I'm sorry.
Weren't we in the middle of the other vote? So we should either, I mean, we're kind of in the middle of the other vote.
We haven't voted yet. We're under discussion under the first one. There are 3 personal expense vouchers and they should not be on the consent agenda.
I understand that, but we were in the middle of the vote on the first one.
Right, and I had
We
moved
didn't
it. I was
finish
just
the first
suggesting,
vote.
is it okay, Madam, or who's the chair of this? thing?
No, he didn't ask me.
Mr. Ross, can I speak? If
You're not
my
saying-
motion was to move it on the first one, I would modify my motion, which is that you have it correctly that I moved the first one. That I would include the other 3 and
Other
move
two.
them off of consent. And then whoever the second was.
Wasn't me, it was
Oh.
Tepe. Burn.
Oh,
Happy-
I agree. I
Okay,
agree.
so then we can handle it with one vote and just do all 3.
So now do we continue in, I'm sorry, if I may, do we continue in the middle of the vote that we're in, or do we go back to the beginning?
We'll go back to the beginning of the personal voucher one. We'll get.
Is that what
another-
you would say, Aaron? Okay,
Another motion in a second.
okay.
So the 3 items, J, K, and L, has been moved and seconded to move those off the consent agenda for the county board meeting. And we need a vote on that now unless there's any more discussion.
Yes.
Seeing none,
Wait,
She can't
Mr. Roth?
participate.
yes. So we've had a motion and a second. Discussion. Okay, let's call for the vote to move those off consent agenda for the board. Oh, time out. Clarification here, sorry. Well, we're just moving them off consent. That's the only thing in the motion. The third one, there's going to be amendment on. So when we get to that, we'll do that amendment.
yes, just to clarify, we are moving these, if they are approved and move forwarded, off the consent agenda for the county board meeting. We're still voting on them now, and we're going to start with the very first personal expense voucher, item J, in the amount of $43.46. But before we do that, we need a vote on moving these off the
To the
consent
consent
agenda
agenda. I agree.
for the county board meeting. So roll call, please.
Give me a second.
Alan, I.
Okay, Alan Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
I.
Tyus,
If this is to move them off, all 3 off of the consent agenda, and that's what it's for, aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman, Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Okay.
Okay, the motion is approved. They will be, if they are approved here at this meeting, they will be moved forwarded, not on the consent agenda for the county board meeting. So the very first resolution, J, is approving county board personal expense voucher in the amount of $43.46.
Caius moves.
Caius
Tepe
moves.
seconds.
Yeah.
Tepe seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alan,
Alan, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
I.
Tyus,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman, Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Passes.
Resolution passes and moves to the county board agenda, not on the consent agenda. The second resolution approving the county board personal expense voucher in the amount of $1,360.84. Need a-
Alan moves.
Ellen moves,
Lewis,
Tyus.
seconds.
seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alan,
Alan, I.
Bates,
I.
Tyus, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes, and that will move to the county board agenda, but not on the consent agenda. The last resolution I have is approving county board personal expense voucher for $111.50.
Okay, I have a motion to amend. There was a correction.
Okay,
The difference on mileage, we need to add 67 cents. So the new amount will be $112.17. Get a motion for that amendment?
need a motion to amend.
Point of order, do we have a motion for this?
No, we haven't made the
Can amend
motion
it
yet.
before you bring it up, or
The
excuse me.
motion
We
first. then
can't
the
amend,
amendment.
so we're bringing it up.
All right, we'll make the motion then.
I would
to
move it
do-
as a, and can I change it before I do that, or just?
Yeah.
Move it, then we have to amend it. I would change it, I would move it with the corrected amount.
Technically, they're separate. I won't.
Okay, I just move it. Caius move.
And your movement is to amend the amount to 112.
No, it's to pass it.
To pass it.
Unamended.
And then we'll make the.
Williams
motion.
seconds.
Okay. And now we'll make the motion to adjust it.
Well,
Or do we have to?
First, any,
No, you can
No,
actually,
Now
you,
you can amend
I
it.
move to
You have to
amend it.
amend it before you. vote.
Williams seconds the amendment.
so now we've got the amendment
right.
to the
Now-
resolution, changing that amount from $111.50 to $112.17.
Now, a vote for the amendment. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, we had a motion and a second on the amendment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion.
Any
second
discussion?
by-
Any discussion?
Bates will second the amendment.
It was,
Already did.
Williams already did.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please, on the amendment.
Thank you. Allen.
Allen, I.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Juby.
Ruby, I.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Linder.
Yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Tepe.
I'm tempted, but yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Amended.
The amendment passes. The resolution now reads, we are approving county board personal expense voucher in the amount of $112.17.
And that's what will appear on the.
And we have a motion and a second on this? Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Allen.
Allen, I.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Juby.
Ruby, I.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Linder.
Later, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman.
Get our sea legs back. Yes.
Yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Resolution passes. That ends the 12 resolutions we had to review and approve.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Well done. Thank you, Mr. Roth. All right, Ms. Molina?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting met on December 12th, 2024, and we have one resolution we'd like to move to the consent agenda. Resolution is authorizing a contract extension for medical services for the Juvenile Justice Center. I will move the resolution.
Williams seconds.
Bates, second.
Yeah, in a second. We got a
Last
second.
one, I
Yes,
think I should
I
get
was just
this one.
reviewing. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, sir, Mr. Leonard.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the amount of this resolution is $437,193.39 with a 3% increase, which I'm fully in favor of.
Mhm. No, it's wonderful. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen, I.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Ruby, I.
Yes.
Guys, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Linder.
Later, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Deputy, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
You're very good. Mr. Tepe.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. We have 9 resolutions. I believe I have to do them individually.
But point of order,
Yes.
I would ask State's Attorney, is it okay if he reads them and adds them and move them as one block?
So I think it has been the past practice of the committee most recently doing it that way. That's my understanding. However, if he would like to read them individually, that
Oh.
would be great too.
I will be happy to do it as one block. Okay. There are any questions? Both Tom and Mike are in the audience. So we have 9 resolutions. The first one is approving appropriation of the county engineer's salary and authorizing a transfer of funds. Therefore, Keene County Section Number 25 bunch of zeros CS and 25 CS 089 00 AC. Second resolution is approving, next 2 resolutions are on the motor fuel tax. So the first resolution is approving fiscal year 2025 county maintenance motor fuel tax appropriation, Keene County Section Number 25 00000-00 GM. The next resolution is approving the 2025 county maintenance motor fuel tax appropriation, Keene County Section Number 25 00000-00 RF. Okay. Fourth resolution is approving an agreement with Genuine Parts Company doing business as Napa Auto Parts of Atlanta, Georgia, for non-original equipment manufactured auto parts and supplies for the Kane County Division of Transportation. Next resolution is approving an appropriation for the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, CMAP. And approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the state of Illinois for statewide planning and research funding for the Kane County Division of Transportation Asset Management Plan. Next resolution is approving a contract construction with Martham Construction Incorporated of Elgin, Illinois for the Bunker Road Extension Project, Kane County Section Number 14-00275-01-PV. Next resolution is approving an agreement for on-call traffic safety engineering services with Thomas Engineering Group LLC of Oak Brook, Illinois, for Kane County Section Number 24-00494-02-EG. And the last resolution is approving the acquisition of the highway right-of-way for Randall Road at Illinois Route 72, Elgin, Illinois, Kane County Section Number 19-00514-00-WR, parcel number 1PK0005 and 1PK005TE. I hereby move all 9 resolutions and ask for a second.
Williams seconds.
Very good, very good. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I would just like to note, going back to item number A, that the county engineer's new salary will begin on February 1st.
Corrected with the retirement of Carl.
Correct, correct. With no other, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Yates,
It's yes.
Juby,
Should aye.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
We are now going off consent. There were 2 resolutions that were brought forward to me, and before I bring them forward to you for your approval.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, point of order.
Yes.
We continued the development to the end of transportation to
absolutely.
address the
Thank you so
question.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
sorry.
much. Yes.
So you're correct, Madam Chair. When this gets to county board, it will need to be read a second time at the following county board meeting. So for today's purposes, what you might do is take a motion to remove from the table and then move it either forward to county board off consent or on consent, your preference. But someone will have to recall at county board that it needs to be removed and held over until the following month. So February is when it'll be voted on finally.
Okay, so how would you like to proceed?
I think
this?
we should move to take it off consent. That way it doesn't slip through the cracks procedurally. So I would make the motion to remove this from the consent agenda. I'm sorry, I should
Would it be
reference.
Removed from the table?
Remove from,
First
is
you have
that
to
the
remove it
term
from
of
the
art?
table.
Remove,
Well, first of all,
Let's
remove from the table.
Yeah, let's.
I
we
would
have
move
to
that we,
this from the
we
table.
bring it back into, so we can talk about it.
I'll second your motion.
Is that a voice vote?
It can be.
Yes, voice vote to move off table.
Well, not a,
All those in favor?
just all those in favor.
Aye.
Oh, just all in
All those
favor,
in
aye?
A voice vote, not a
Okay,
roll
very
call.
good voice vote, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Caius.
Now you can introduce.
I will move to table ordinance amending section 2-48 of the Kane County Code
No.
Table it now.
to remove off consent. Did we do that already?
I think your motion might be to move the resolution, move the ordinance forward to county board, but off the
Okay.
consent agenda.
So I will restate my motion to move ordinance amending section 2-48 of the Kane County Code, standing committees to revise language related to the County Development Committee off consent, but move forward.
Caius would second.
Any discussion on this? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Zuby, aye.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
That's very good. I'd like to compliment your committee for moving this forward and getting this done, this 15-year update. It's
Don't thank me.
done in a timely manner.
Godian.
So we have two items off consent, and before we bring those forward, as I was saying before, for your potential approval, just a little update. So these were brought to me last week, and I then quickly called both of the chairs of each one of the mutual committees to ask, have they had the opportunity to review this? It's very important. When an emergency resolution comes to my attention, there's a little checklist. Have you done this? Have you done that? But the one check that is not in there, have you contacted the committee chair? So we're going to be putting that on there, just so you know, because I don't want to have any of this come through without your approval to put it on here. I do have the authorization to do it, but as a courtesy, professional courtesy, I think it's very important that you all know what's going on, just in case somebody from your staff had to bring it forward quickly, just to give you a call and to talk it through. 'Cause sometimes they get grant opportunities that come in the last minute and they've got to get it through. And we can appreciate that, or there may be an immediate change. So that's why. Also at times, also ask how it impacts it financially. So there may be a financial allocation as well that needs to be put onto the resolution. So we know how money is being transferred from one account to another. So I will keep that in mind. We're going to have a meeting about that, and staff will know the new procedure, but it's pretty easy. It's nothing onerous or challenging. It's just bookkeeping and accountability. So with that, may I have a motion and a second to approve item A, approving FY 2025 budget adjustment to the enterprise surcharge fund for the implementation of a USDA composting and food waste reduction grant program.
Bates moves.
Thank you. Ms. Bates. Alan, seconds. Alan, I'll take Miss Allen's second. Any discussion on this item? None. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Zuby, aye.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Jeppy, yes.
Williams left, Roth.
Roth, yes.
Very good. Item B, this is ratifying an emergency purchase affidavit for the purchase of fiscal management and staff training services for the Office of Community Reinvestment.
Lewis moves.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Allen seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Surges, at the tail end of last year, I thought we were really making a concerted effort with the term emergency purchase affidavit, that it just connotates, there's some urgency, there's there's like, woo, to put the fire out. And that we were going to try and rename that. And today we've already have 2 or 3 of them on, in the very first meeting of the agenda, this being one of them. But this one's not in consent. And my question for this specific, because I think I have a little bit of background on it, but not enough to be, just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be informed. Is this something that we're purchasing going forward to be used? Or is this something that has been backwards for quite some time and the bill just came through and we're trying to figure out what to do with that? And I thought that there had been communications back and forth on this. And now it's in an emergency status, as if it kind of has a little bit of a flavor in my mouth that, hey, if we don't answer emails or phone calls and we just let it percolate until it becomes an emergency, we'll get to it. And I'm just trying to put that out of my head and say that's not the case, but hope that we can find a way to eradicate this from our behavior.
I'll have Ms. Lewis answer that. All of your concerns will be relieved.
Yeah, but it's good to bring that up because we do have to get disciplined. But in this case, Mr. Berger is getting a grant, and it is to train he's got several new employees there in pretty high positions. And so the Workforce Development Board approved this the end of December at their meeting. They had to approve it before it could go to us because we're just basically overseeing what they do. So they approved it. So we have to approve it so he can get the training done now. So that's why. And then the state's attorney said you should put it through as an emergency, even though we don't like that word, those state's attorneys. But that's why it came through as an emergency and didn't go through the proper things and he was very gracious. He called Madam Chair, he called me, he called Deborah Allen, and and then he even said, if I need to be online, I will. But this was one that just.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And no, if you're going to sit there, we're going to yell at you. No,
Mr. Roth?
Roth here. To further clarify, this is not out of general funds, right? This is out of a grant.
This is a grant, and this is money coming from the state of Illinois.
Right. Okay. And that's all. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on this? Okay, hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Juby,
Juby, aye.
Tyus,
Nice, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes.
Very good. So that ends our consent agenda and off consent agenda. There's no need for executive session. I have one statement I'd like to make as far as my chairman's comments. We have a new vice chair, Bill Roth, and part of his responsibilities is if I have a task for him, I can ask him to do it politely and if necessary. And he has agreed to do this. One of his comments that he made when he was presented with this opportunity is that he wanted to take a look at how our budget process works to make it more effective, to make it more efficient. I have tasked him with doing that to let you know. So if he asks any of your committees, if he talks to you about it, please kindly be responsive to him. Kathleen Hopkinson is aware of this as well. And I will ask him to give a preliminary report to us, at least the beginning, next month. And then let's get this completed, if you would be so kind to do so by May. So any recommendations, we are done in an early enough manner that we can adopt them if the board thinks that this is a great idea. Okay, so I would appreciate that. I know it was your challenge to us, so,
Well, and I've already started. I mean, I met with Mr. Berman on some of my ideas, and it's not just my ideas. I'm looking for input
absolutely.
from everyone. So I'll be sending out a request to
Okay.
meet with all committee chairs to
Okay.
get input.
Okay.
Because
very
we got
good.
to get a consensus. What are we going to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
I'd like to know if there's any updates about the strategic plan.
Yes, is Ms. Hopkinson still in the room? Yes, there are.
Electric shock. A vendor has been selected and we will be bringing forth a resolution at the January Finance Committee.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And when are we looking forward to starting with this once it gets approved?
Probably, I mean, by the time the contracting is all done, probably March or April.
Okay. So it'll be a busy time. It'll be a very busy time for all of us.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? Are there any? Is there a legislative update? Linda?
No, nothing new has come across.
Okay. Any committee reports?
Madam Chair Surges.
Yes, Mr. Surges.
At the end of 24, just at the election cycle, there were several items in the Human Services Committee that we said it doesn't sit well with me to push these or discuss these until the new board is seated. We'll be reviving some of those and I'll get emails out to the other committees that affects, asking for their input as we begin getting those back on agenda. Also, and I don't even think this came through Jamie, but privately, we rely on our outside consultants. So and we are so blessed in so many ways with the people that we have. But Mike Baker's group, we started at this entity and then was rolled up to Assured Partners. I am under I've been advised that they've actually been purchased by Gallagher. So where we started with Mike, who was a really great guy with great ideas, and then we developed this concept and worked on in-house stuff, and Assured Partners brought this wealth of knowledge and resources to us. To be rolling up to Gallagher is, I mean, there's none bigger. So this is really something that's exciting for us to look forward to. I also just wanted to give a quick comment that, Madam Chair, I think you had reached out to me regarding our health insurance and the consortium that we used to be involved with in the past. And we as a collective board said, no, we can manage this better in-house on our own. We have done an absolutely remarkable job of that. And I would like to just put that out there where we're happy to have conversation on that. Everybody that I've spoken to has said marching that backwards would not be in our best interest. And I'm happy to discuss that, but I wanted that openly on the table and not something that's in the ether. Going back to that collective, we were the big fish in the small pond and it was not of great benefit to us. The way we're doing it now with the help from Mike Baker and his team has just worked out so wonderfully for us. And the word of the day is tweak. We've continued to tweak our offerings, but we are really doing a great job for our employees and our staff. And I'm very pleased with that.
And just to clarify, that consortium, it was from ISACO. So that's where that was coming from.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Caius.
Sure. Ms. Caius from Administrative Committee. I think in the new year, this is probably a good time to behoove us to look at some of the projects that, you pull those up, Blair? Some of the projects that, with a county that has 1 million square feet of buildings. Yeah, just front and back, just some real quick I don't want to drag it through a lot of stuff here, but I wanted you all to be aware of things that are going on right now. I know we pushed so hard to make sure that we were able to accomplish getting the bids out for the ARPA money, and some of these programs are definitely ARPA in work. And so this is the progress that the Building Management Department has made on items that have been sorely overlooked for the last decade or actually even longer than that, that are we're able to tap into the ARPA as well as some of our capital funds. So rather than go through each one of individual, you'll see that there's just short notes on this. If you have other questions, of course, Mr. Flaunstock can answer those at whatever time is necessary. You can get in touch with me. But those are some of the things that are, I think I know that I am so impressed by what has been accomplished and where we're at on this and how big this project is, that I'm excited to share it. And I want the board to be aware of it, because we don't, we sit in our building, our meeting here, and we don't even think about what's going on 3rd Street necessarily. We have a very, for example, the lighting system out Judicial Centers well underway, and we're still working on it to improve the lighting in the parking lots out there. Some of these things are health and risk management with the domestic water system and the HVAC pipe chase, very expensive, but it's also a use of our ARPA money. And then the historic courthouse has done a remodeling on their offices out there. And just ongoing things like pavement management we don't even think about. But the Public Defender's Office, I just talked with Mark Smith out there. He said we have some very, very happy individuals out there because we were able to accommodate them by just doing some modifications and improving how many offices they can have and how they can seat their employees much better out there. So this is just a quick overview. I know if you're in transportation, you get something like that, like how our project's moving along, but I'm really excited about where we're doing with the, toward the millions of, and it's all staff here that are doing that. So if you have any questions, of course, we'll be meeting next week, the day after regular board meeting.
Well done,
Yes,
Mr.
going over
Cass.
there.
Well done. Very well done. Thank you. Mr. Tepe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tepe here. First, in regard to the Transportation Committee, Mr. Caius and I met with the key managers at the Transportation Department on Monday. And one of the things we decided was to put forth some presentations. We'll be doing one at the meeting later this month, the second one in February, and the third one in January. We'll endeavor to keep these presentations short. But they're going to be key on things that really need to be understood by the entire board. So I'd encourage everybody to at least listen to that part of the presentation if they can, so that they have an understanding of key things that transportation is doing, and hopefully we'll continue that. Also in regard to the ARPA committee, moving into its new phase. We're going to be explaining that at the next ARPA committee and historically how we got there, how the personnel work, and how we'll be moving forward with closing out all of the government funds that we've received. So thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Bates.
I'll put in a little plug for energy and environmental. Our staff has been working very diligently on creating a list of low-hanging fruit from the Climate Action Implementation Plan. And we will be bringing forth, at our next meeting, we'll be talking about some of the projects that we think we will be implementing soon. So that's going to be very exciting, turning the plan into reality.
Very good. Just from an executive, reflecting on some of the public comment that was made today, all of you have gotten goals for your mutual committees, and the goals are all going to be very much on the forefront of each of one of your agendas. I would like you to consider quantifying those. What are your objectives? Obviously quantifying services, units delivered, money used out of your budget for that, but quantify them and see if you can actually start documenting what you have achieved. There was a new building, a new health department building that is being brought forward by the city of Aurora that I'm going to share the article with Ms. Strathman. And what they're doing is they're quantifying use of expenses, how much money they can save service delivered to their employees. Because it's going to be an internal, self-funded health department, but actually with the doctor and nurses, et cetera, and how they can save money on this operation. That's quantifying what it needs. So anything that we do forward on this, how are we either saving money or using money better or providing additional services? Should be something that we can consider, and it should be something that be an active part of our conversation. So that's my challenge to you, and we'll see if we can get it done. And Mr. Surges, I'll share the article with you as well. Because it was in yesterday's paper, I believe. And we can do additional research if needed on that. But that's just an example.
Madam Chair, I had one more item, if only if you were completed.
I'm done.
So we started our meeting talking about proclamations, and Ms. Juby, I shared this with you last night. There was a proclamation. Blair, do we have that photo? There was a proclamation made earlier in the year where we honored a couple of area athletes. And one of them was, unbeknownst to me, kind enough to be my nephew who played at St. Charles North. And for those of you that watched the Pop-Tarts Bowl on TV down in Orlando, Iowa State won the game in the final 3 seconds by an interception by none other than Drew Surges, which was immortalized by, a Sports Illustrated type of photo there. But it was exciting to be invited by your nephew to come down and watch the game.
Yeah.
It was the game, it was like, 40 something to 40. I mean, it was a high scoring game. And this was, people say, hey, we give these proclamations. This kid, this was an unbelievable play, interviewed after the game and everything. So Leslie, thank you for doing that. It was so appreciated.
I think you're biased.
I am biased on this.
Leslie, did you find this photo?
Boise State.
Didn't find the photograph, but I did put forth the resolution, and had he asked me to put it forth unbiasedly in the comments, I would have. Instead, it really does look like nepotism here.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm admiring is the balletic pose. If you take a look at his pointed feet,
Yeah.
definitely they have ballet training.
It's a ballet dancing, yeah.
So well done. Congratulations to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah.
I forgot. Go Boise State. I wanted to mention Heidi Files put this report together and I forgot. I left that
Okay,
out.
Heidi, thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
See her. Thank you very much, Heidi. Well done. Okay, thank you all. A good way to end the
Madam
meeting. Oh,
Chair?
yes,
I move we adjourn.
thank you. Thank you, the new.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old timer.
So.